Hello, everyone. My name is Christina Wilcox. I am an author, content creator, and typically employed young woman. However, I unfortunately got laid off in July. The tech startup I was working for, they fired everyone. Am I currently giving unemployed Ben Wyatt? Could a depressed person make this?
Depressed? I'm the furthest thing from depressed. I mean, look at what I've accomplished. Do you see him? Do you think a depressed person could make this? No.
Very much so, because my solution to my literal depression and agony, job hunting, in this economy, I'm attempting to give my soul a little bit of reprieve and joy, experience a little bit of creativity by starting a booktube. That is why I am here with you today. If you want an idea of what kind of books I like, I'm going to put them on the screen so you can know what kind of reader I am. The video today will be focused on me reading some of the most polarizing books that you guys told me that you thought were the most polarizing on my Instagram, but also through Goodreads and some other research I did. We're starting off this video strong with a modern lit fic by the girly Otessa Moshfig. Yes, we are reading My Year of Rest and Relaxation. We are starting this one first because that is what I was able to get at the library first. I'm only about 25 to 30 pages in, I believe. It is reading about the two worst people that I know, but not in a fun way. I can see why this book is very polarizing. It is about our main character who is going through it. She is a very privileged person, but she is going through a rut in her life. Based on the cover of the book, which laid on, really thought this was going to be like a princess in a castle falls asleep for a year because she was depressed, had a bunch of elixirs from someone and fell asleep and then woke up, and she talked about what she was learning in light of everything she missed. This is set in modern day 2000, and despite her privileged life, she has, it seems, been through quite a bit of trauma. She is basically trying to sleep through her life through taking a concoction of pills through a psychiatrist that definitely should not be a psychiatrist. Like, the license should have been revoked at this point. That is where we're at in this book, but I'm excited to continue it to see where I land on it. Let's keep reading. You hear talking in the background. My husband is playing games with his bestie. We love that for him. I went to the library to read the rest of My Year of Rest and Relaxation because I needed to return it today and also pick up some other holds I had. And my overall thoughts, understand why this book would be impactful for someone or even helpful for someone. For me personally, if I had to give like my own personal rating with how it made me feel, I would give it a 2.5. You're unpacking a lot of the trauma that she went through as a child with her parents. It's very clear as to why she would actually need therapy. It's just like really sad. Like, the whole book is so heavy, and especially the ending, it made me so like, I felt like I needed to take a shower. It just made me feel so grimy. I think that's more of a personal thing. I'm very sensitive. I do really love characters that I hate. I love Vicious by V.E. Schwab, which you're reading about like the two worst men on the planet. But because there are some whimsical or fantastical elements still to that story, it makes the characters a lot more tolerable. For me, as I was reading it, I was like, I know this girl smells. I know she is stinky. Confirmed stinky. I didn't really really vibe with it. It was not a book for me. There are parts of it I appreciate. Not necessarily a bad book. It just, again, I see why it's so controversial. And for some, I do think it could be very impactful. For me, it is causing me to need some time away from literary fiction. I need to read a cute graphic novel to cleanse my palate before jumping into our next controversial read, which I think I'm actually going to choose one that is a little bit more fantastical before jumping back into lit fic. Sorry if you can hear the train in the background. Our house is right by train tracks. I'll see you when I pick up our next read. Am I in the exact same spot a couple days later? Yeah. And if you cannot tell by my voice and by how I look, I'm sick. I'm not letting this stop me from reading our next book. In fact, I'm hoping my wee little pea brain can still wrap my head around it. I have my tea brewing in the background, my throat coat tea, and the book of choice for the most controversial books I could read in this video, Fourth Wing. You know when you're sick and like when you are looking at something and you can't focus on it? That is literally how I feel right now. I'm so sorry to future me who is having to edit this footage of myself. We're pushing through. You may be saying, Christina, why is this a controversial book? It is well beloved. And you would be right about that. But there are some people that I follow on Goodreads who did not like this book. This is just like a controversial book because it's a popular BookTok book, okay? There's not really another reason. Interesting that I'm reading it way beyond when the hype was for this book. And there's dragons, which I am looking forward to the vibes. And I'm gonna just try and get well. My vision for this book, I need to have a good time. I want to have a good time. So that is what I'm hoping for. I've already started it barely, and I'm very skeptical. Just like I'm pushing through filming this, we're going to push through. Let's start Fourth Wing, besties. Let's go. I am almost 150 pages in after starting it this morning. One thing I knew I was going to love about this book is how fast-paced it is. It is a very bingeable story. I am enjoying it way more than I thought I would. I think the one thing that really constantly takes me out of it is the use of modern language. When I was reading some of the Throne of Glass books, like the language never took me out of the story, where there are some lines and words that she uses in here that do take me out of the story and make me cringe a bit. I love the world that this is set in, the actual fantasy, the idea of like a military dragon academy. Yeah, I get it. I get why this is so fun. I really don't want to stop reading. I'm exercising self-control, so I have something to be excited about later. Okay, y'all, I'm sorry for the weird noise that my walking pad is making, but I just have to say, I'm trying to finish Fourth Wing. I'm literally this far in, okay? I am this far into Fourth Wing. I have this much left. I don't want to keep going. I hate to say it. I don't want to keep going. I'm so sick of the language in this book, and I'm so disappointed because the concept is so cool, but all we keep hearing about is how horny everyone is. I just like, it's the language is really starting to get on my nerves.
For
It is quite a bit later after finishing all three of these popular, controversial books. I have gathered my thoughts about each of them. I don't know, I'm glad I let them all simmer for a bit, especially now that I'm also not sick anymore. I feel like I was able to formulate how I feel about each book. First book I want to go over is the one at the beginning of this video, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. This book has stuck with me despite its low rating. I feel like I genuinely want to give it, for me personally, a 2.75, 2.5, but objectively, I feel like I should give it a 3. It truly is controversial. Like, you're either gonna really like this book or you're not going to like it at all. And though I appreciated parts of this book and it had very interesting thoughts and commentary about depression and mental illness and privilege, the idea of just even the main character wanting a year to hibernate, basically, and process her trauma, even though it wasn't in a glamorous or like clean girl aesthetic way. It was quite literally grimy and not great. Like, I don't have a better word for it. It wasn't great. The way that she handled needing to hibernate wasn't great, and land around a 2.75 to 3 because there were parts of the book where I was really starting to enjoy it. Towards the middle, closer to the end, I started to enjoy it, but then, oh my gosh, I just was getting really sick of her. I was getting really sick of her, which I think you're supposed to. And then with how it ended, no, I did not like the ending. The ending was not for me. It ruined the book for me. I just did not like the ending. Yeah, but I will say, if you are a reader who enjoys very unlikable main characters, you will probably really like this book, especially if you're into literary fiction. I am also into very unlikable characters, but for some reason this just did not land with me, and that's okay. I'm glad I read it though. So the next book I finished, which was a polar opposite read, was Fourth Wing. And I had told myself that I was never going to read Fourth Wing. Not to be a snob, I was honestly really scared of the smut. I'm not a big smut reader. I don't mind some spice in my romance books or even fantasy books. You know, people online, when they describe this book, they make it sound like the whole thing is smut. You know? Just this whole conversation about romantasy in general, people are just like, yeah, you want to read about dragons having sex? Read Fourth Wing. Which, yeah, that is a part of the book. I'm not gonna lie. The smut is what I found to be the least interesting about this book. The setting, the atmosphere. I was so surprised at how highly I wanted to rate this book. I think I'm landing on like a 3.75. Though objectively there were things that really bothered me, mainly the writing style and the language used. It really took me out of the story a lot. Like, it just sounded, we're in this postmodern fantastical universe that's also kind of has many peasant-like elements to it, but the language that was used with the characters was very Gen Z. Really just wanted it to sound more medieval. I also just got really sick of some of the simping that was happening. Despite that, I had a wonderful time. Talk about an escapism book, brain rot book. I'm gonna read the second one, okay? I gotta read the second one. I gotta know what happens. The cliffhanger. Oh my gosh, the whole magic system. Again, there were so many aspects of the writing that I really didn't like, but then there were other plot devices and ways that the author had written in world building that I thought was really clever and cool. So overall, I would say this is the book that surprised me the most out of these three of how much I enjoyed it. What can I say? I liked it. I'm willing to turn a blind eye to the things I didn't like, but I will say the smut in this book is very graphic. I think this was the most graphic smut I had ever read. If you are more into ACOTAR and other books like that, it might not be as crazy, but I was like, wow, this is crazy for me. I'm glad that I got over myself, which was the point of this video. Glad I got over myself and out of my comfort zone to read it. Moose is gonna join us for this last little recap, okay? So the last book that you saw that I read for this video was Normal People. And this was the book that I was most interested in finding out if I liked it or not, because I've just seen so many mixed opinions about it, especially between Normal People and Conversations with Friends and Beautiful World, Where Are You? It's like everyone just like, either you love all of her books or you like one of them and despise the other two. And so I'm curious where I'm going to fall in this category overall, having only read Normal People now. Normal People probably was my favorite one out of these three, and I was really surprised by that. I think my favorite part about this book, it's really just about two people trying to be normal, and it's so mundane and ordinary and confusing and real and raw. There was also a lot more sensitive, heavy topics discussed: emotional abuse and physical abuse and familial dysfunction and larger conversations about depression and anxiety. And I cried during this book. I'm not sure if I filmed myself crying, but I did cry during this book. Was wrecked by this book, especially towards the end. I'm gonna use this as a gauge because it's a running joke with one of my close friends, but if you loved La La Land, you're probably gonna really love Normal People. If La La Land broke you and made you furious, the ending wrecked you, not in a this hurts so good way, don't think I'll recommend Normal People to you. It was so heart-wrenching. The story is heart-wrenching. It is so much more than just two people falling in love. The more I talk about it, the more I really realize I like it. I had originally rated it in my mind like 4 stars, but it might be more of like a 4.5 situation for me. I love my books to hurt me a little bit. All of my favorite books have actually destroyed me. So that's interesting, just learning more about myself as a reader. But that's why, again, that I wanted to do this video, and I appreciate you sticking around and watching. And I want to do more videos like this where I'm just continually reading books out of my comfort zone or reading books that are controversial. I want to encourage you as a reader to do the same, because there are things that maybe you think are dumb, you know, within the bookish world, or things that you just think you would never be able to handle, or things that you think would be too complicated for you as a reader or too easy for you as a reader. I'm just such a proponent of reading everything. I'm the same way with music. I just love having a wide breadth of media and creativity to consume. It makes me a better person. It makes me a more empathetic person. I am so glad I did this, and thank you so much for watching, hanging around, and I'll see you in the next video. Rainbows? Goodbye. Goodbye.